Hello everyone and welcome back to the Belgian Beer Brothers channel. Cedric here in Antwerp with yet another brew review. Today we are revisiting the Musketeers in Sint-Gilles-Waas. They have this very interesting series, or they have several interesting series, but one of those is the Bucket List series. The Bucket List series started with some experimenting, and they came up with the names, or still come up with the names, by asking employees what is on your bucket list. We've already had, I think, Kiss My Neighbor's Wife, which I kind of liked. We've already had Walk the Red Carpet. I think this is number 15 or 16 in the series, so I am a bit behind. But this is Climb the Mont Ventoux, a 5.1% ABV Bohemian Lager. And in this case, it was Mila, one of their employees, who is quite sporty apparently and was thinking about her next sporty endeavor. Now, I do have a link with the Mont Ventoux as well, because as some of you may know, I often go to the south of France to climb in the neighborhood, but I've always also been a volunteer for well over 4 or 5 years for a cycling event at the Mont Ventoux with Sporta. I'll put a link somewhere so you guys can check that out. As always, they have a lovely, beautiful can. I like the cartoony style. I like the wrapped around background. I like the way that the Musketeers make everything available in their press releases. So yeah, Stefan and Christophe, keep it up. The Bucket List series is a series of beers that are strikingly different, limited in edition, crafty in taste, and at the same time very well conceived, as you are used to of the Musketeers. Full malt crisp lager with hop spicy aroma. Ingredients: water, barley malt, hops and yeast. And that is it. Okay. Let's have a taste. Unfortunately, they do not have dedicated Bucket List series glasses, so we are using the Troubadour glass. And Troubadour is of course their best known and also equally interesting series. However, when we have Bucket List series on tap at the bar, we also use the Troubadour glasses, of course. First thing that I see here is, again, a bit paler than I expected. I would have expected this a bit golden, yeah, a bit sunny, but it's a bit more pale, a bit more yellowish than I expected. Nothing wrong with that, of course. And I also see that there is some yeast, some sediment that escaped the can. I didn't expect that, so I wasn't careful. But that shouldn't be a problem. Nice amount of carbonation, decent head of foam, nice white creamy foam. Also looks a bit like the top of the Mont Ventoux here. Yeah, quite nice. Fun fact, I say Mont Ventoux. There is also a brewery at the Mont Ventoux. I haven't reviewed any of their beers, I think. But if you look back to, I think, Brew Review 430-ish, the Hoppy Terra by BOC, Brasseur Œnologique Créateur. They also have the Mont Ventoux in the logo underneath, with that tiny tower on the top. Okay. Ooh, very malty, slightly sweet. A lot of carbon dioxide in the nose. A bit hoppy. It actually smells like they described on the can. Full malt lager with a hop spicy aroma. Exactly. Interesting. Okay, let's have a taste. Cheers. Okay, I think hop spicy is a key word in this beer. It is very hoppy, very spicy, very bitter, very dry. As you guys know, I absolutely love that. That is, of course, typical for those Bohemian lagers. Very crisp, very, very clean and hoppy. So I should actually look into that a bit more because I know I love those flavors and aromas, so I should love that style. Apart from that, call me crazy. I do get a bit of sweetness, a bit of maltiness, but I mainly get that hop, that spiciness, but also it's a bit floral. For some reason I'm tasting flower petals, and I'm not against it. Now, back when I was a chef, which is 25 years ago, we already used some flower petals or some edible flowers from the garden in our food. There is absolutely nothing wrong with using flowers. Well, half of our food are plants, so who would have known? But as long as you know what you're doing, yeah, flowers are pretty okay, pretty nice in food. Oftentimes to switch things up. And in this case, it's nice and floral. It's not sticky, not greasy, as some flowers do. So very, very nice. I think this is a very, very balanced beer. As in, it is very hoppy, very bitter, very dry. But at the same time, I still get that bit of maltiness, that sweet silver lining, that floral component, nice aroma. I think the yeast absolutely had its say in this beer. I think this is just a downright beautiful lager, and I would absolutely never have expected to like this so much. Okay. The aftertaste is also very interesting, and way more complex than I would have expected from a simple lager, or simple lager. The after flavor is, again, dry and bitter, but way more mellow, as is customary for most beers, but way more yeasty, and that crisp bitterness is the first layer. But after that, you go straight into that herbal, that spicy flavor from those hops and from the yeast, presumably. Very nice. I am obliged to give this a 3.75. Easily. And I think this is a beautiful replacement for your everyday Pilsner or lager. I think if we would have this on tap at the bar at 5.1% ABV, I would love to replace our Jupiler or Stella Artois with this one. I think the only concern there is pricing. It is obviously a bit more expensive, being exclusive, being limited, and being from a smaller brewery. But yeah, I think this beer guarantees a good night. Alright, as usual, thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you guys in the next video. Until then, if you want to see more, check out the channel. I have a myriad of playlists sorted by brewery, by style, by country, whatever you want. If you want to see even more, subscribe and hit the bell icon so you'll get notified whenever I upload something, which should be every Wednesday, Saturday and Sunday. Yeah, and I'll see you guys again in the next one. Cheers.